In September 1987, the Toronto Blue Jays were on the brink of history. With a 3.5-game lead and just 7 games left to play, they seemed unstoppable. But in a shocking turn of events, they suffered one of the most unforgettable collapses in Major League Baseball history. And while many fans are blaming John Schneider for pulling Kevin Gausman, some people seem to believe there's another overlooked factor that contributed to the loss. Needless to say, what we witnessed in the wildcard game was nothing short of gut-wrenching, especially for fans who invested hope, excitement, and energy into this team. The sting of that loss lingers long after the final out. But the burning question remains, what truly cost them the game? Let's dive deep into it. But before that, to stay up to date with our latest videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more exciting content. The Blue Jays had been on a roller coaster ride all season. Their highs filled with promise and excitement, and their lows presenting challenges. But nothing prepared us for the shocking downfall that took place in the wild card game. With an 8-1 lead, the Blue Jays seemed poised to coast into the next round. Then, in what seemed like a blink of an eye, the Mariners executed an improbable comeback. The game that looked sealed was suddenly wide open. But where did it all go wrong? Let's go down memory lane a little. The Toronto Blue Jays, a team that represents not just a city, but an entire nation. For those who don't know, the Blue Jays are one of Major League Baseball's most unique franchises. The Blue Jays were established in 1977 as part of Major League Baseball's expansion. Playing their first game on April 7th of that year, the team debuted at Exhibition Stadium in front of a snowy Toronto crowd. It wasn't the ideal start, but it marked the beginning of a journey that would capture the hearts of Canadian sports fans. Named after the Blue Jay, a bird native to Canada, the team's identity is steeped in the country's natural heritage. Their bright blue uniforms and maple leaf logo have become symbols of Canadian pride on the baseball field. The Blue Jays weren't an overnight success, but by the 1980s they became serious contenders. The pinnacle of their journey came in the early 1990s when the team achieved back-to-back World Series victories in 1992 and 1993. Their 1993 win featured one of the most iconic moments in baseball history: Joe Carter's walk-off home run in Game 6 against the Philadelphia Phillies. It's a moment etched in the memory of fans, not just in Toronto but across Canada. But then, somewhere along the line, things began to fall apart. Let's start with one of the most talked about moments of the game: Kevin Gausman's exit. Tim Mayza, a lefty, came in to face Carlos Santana, who hit better against lefties. The decision seemed questionable at the time, especially since Mayza hadn't been as effective against righties. But with the score still in the Blue Jays' favor, it shouldn't have been a major issue, especially since Mayza had been solid all season. However, Mayza threw a wild pitch, making it 8-2, and then Santana hit a 3-run homer. In the heat of the moment, many Jays fans got really angry, and after the loss, the frustration grew. A lot of fans, though not all, blame the decision to pull Gausman. While that's a valid critique, there's another aspect that needs to be highlighted as a key factor in the loss. Gausman had thrown 95 pitches and was pitching well. He had been dominant into the 5th or 6th inning, and just as fans were praising his performance, he gave up 3 straight hits, loading the bases. Given his big contract and the importance of the game, you'd expect him to stay in the game. It was only the 5th inning and he was paid to handle such pressure. But instead, he was pulled. In hindsight, that was a poor decision. Ideally, a right-handed pitcher should have been brought in to face Santana, and this would have likely reduced the backlash. However, despite how bad the decision was, it wasn't the major reason for the loss. The Jays were still up 8-1 at the time, and Mayza could have easily gotten an out. Of course, with the benefit of hindsight, Schneider would have likely kept Gausman in the game or made a different bullpen change. Now, let's get to the true turning point of the game. As you know, Jordan Romano came in to try for a 6-out save after Anthony Bass allowed the bases to load up. Romano was tasked with a tough situation, and the crowd was buzzing. The score was now 8-5, and while a 6-out save is challenging, Romano was the guy for the job. He struck out the first 2 Mariners batters with ease, and at this point, with 2 outs and the bases loaded, the game seemed in control for the Jays. Then, J.P. Crawford came to the plate and hit a pop-up. It fell right between Springer, Bo Bichette, and Espinal. An unfortunate jam shot. If Springer had caught it, Romano would have gone into the 9th with a 3-run lead, but instead, the ball dropped. This was the game's turning point. Sure, you could argue that if Gausman had stayed in, the situation wouldn't have occurred, but the fact remains that the game turned when that bloop single dropped in. When reviewing the play, you can see that Springer had a chance to catch the ball. He did. However, Bichette ran too far into the outfield, cutting into Springer's path and forcing him to adjust his dive. Springer ended up colliding with Bichette, and the ball fell to the ground. According to StatCast, Springer had to cover an additional 4.5 feet of ground because of Bichette's positioning. If Bichette had stayed out of Springer's way, the center fielder likely would have had a much better shot at making the catch. If Springer had caught it, the Jays would have entered the 9th inning with a 3-run lead and a near-guaranteed win. Sadly, all 3 runners scored on the bloop single, tying the game 8-8. It's tough to digest, but that bloop single sealed the Jays' fate. The Jays, who had been in control for most of the contest, suddenly found themselves reeling. Bo didn't deserve the blame. He was just trying to make a play in a high-pressure moment. But realistically, he should have known not to run into Springer's path in the outfield. What could have been done differently? It's easy to look back and say what should have happened, but hindsight is 20/20. Still, there were a few key decisions that might have changed the outcome. Number 1, defensive substitutions. Springer had been dealing with injuries leading up to the game. While he's a phenomenal defender, this was a high-stress situation. Subbing in Jackie Bradley Jr., a defensive specialist, might have been a smarter move for the later innings. Bradley likely would have made the catch and preserved the lead. Communication breakdown. In high-pressure situations, clear communication is critical. Bichette's instinct to make a play is understandable, but he should have deferred to Springer, who had a better angle and positioning. Bullpen management. While Snyder's decision to pull Gausman was questionable, it wasn't the defining mistake. However, better matchup planning like bringing in a right-handed reliever to face Santana could have minimized the damage. A painful lesson. For fans, the sting of that loss lingers. It wasn't just a game, it was a symbol of missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. The Blue Jays had the talent, the momentum, and the lead, but they couldn't close the door. This collapse wasn't just about one decision or one play. It was a combination of small missteps that snowballed into disaster. From the bullpen struggles to the defensive miscommunication, the Blue Jays left the door open just enough for the Mariners to capitalize. Closing thoughts. Is it safe to say history repeated itself? Because the 2022 wildcard game will also go down as one of the most memorable collapses in Blue Jays history. But anyway, while it's easy to focus on the negatives, it's also a chance for the team to grow and come back stronger. At the end of the day, that bloop single was the key reason the Jays lost the game. Yes, the bullpen and Schneider's decision to pull Gausman were factors, but that moment was what really cost them the game. Do you agree? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We're on an exciting journey to 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without your support. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. We'll keep delivering content that dives deep into what went wrong, what could be better, and the key changes needed for next season. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers!